What's going on, movie fans? My name is Michael Weer. I love talking about movies, and it's crazy to think, but we've already made it through the halfway point of 2025. That's right, 6 months of this year are already a thing of the past, January through June, gone just like that. However, in those first 6 months of the year, there were so many brand new movies that came out, whether they went to theaters or they went to streaming, whether they were good, bad, or indifferent. So many brand new movies. In fact, I had a chance to see over 50 brand new films in 2025 so far. And so what I like to do on this channel at the midway point of the year is take a look back at all the brand new movies that I had a chance to see and then talk about 5 of the best and 5 of the worst. And that's what we're going to do here today. And what's really exciting about this list is that the 5 best and worst that I talk about today may not even be on my top 10 best or worst of 2025 at the end of the year, just depending on how good or bad of a year we have going forward. But as always, this isn't just about my list, it's about your list as well. And so I'd love to know what you had a chance to see in the first half of this year and what you would rank as the top 5 best and top 5 worst. Maybe you don't have a top 5 of either side. Maybe you just have a favorite movie or a worst movie of the year. Throw all that in the comment section down below. Just keep in mind that my list is probably not going to match your list, and that's totally okay because we all look at movies a little bit differently. And finally, guys, before getting into the rest of this video, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button. Check out all the different content on my channel. Like I said, I've seen over 50 brand new films in the first half of this year, and I've done quick YouTube reactions to all of those films right after I watch them, so I would love for you guys to check those out. Or I've done full movie reviews for over 30 of these films, and so I would love for you guys to check that content out as well. All right, let's get into the best and the worst of 2025 so far.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
We're going to start out with the top 5 worst of the year so far. That way we can end this video on a happier note. So at number 5 of the worst films of the year so far, we have The Shrouds. The Shrouds is directed by David Cronenberg, a man who directed The Fly back in the day, has made some great body horror films, and The Shrouds is a film about a guy who creates this new thing called grave tech. And grave tech is where you can bury your loved ones, but then you can actually watch them decompose on an app on your phone from cameras that are buried with the casket. And so because of that premise, because of that setup, and because it was Cronenberg, I thought we were going to get some great body horror. I also thought we were going to get a really fun horror film. And what we ended up getting was more of a sci-fi dramatic film about a guy who did create this grave tech because his wife passed away. And he's got these issues where he keeps seeing her sort of everywhere, but she's not really there. And then the whole movie sort of shifts, and it's actually about a relationship that he's having with his sister-in-law who recently divorced his brother, who may or may not be a bad guy. And the movie just really started to lose me about halfway through, and by the end of the film, I couldn't wait to get out of the theater. This was such a waste of time movie that asked a ton of questions and provided no answers. Now, I did have someone comment on my YouTube short for this saying, if you were looking for answers out of a Cronenberg movie, you went to the wrong place. And I get it. He likes to be mysterious. He likes to be thought-provoking. All of that is fine, but you can't ask 100 questions and answer 0 of them. That's not going to get you on my best movies of the year list. In fact, it's going to get you on the worst, and that's why it's number 5. Coming in at number 4, we have The Woman in the Yard. This is a Blumhouse film, and it's not surprising to anybody that there's a Blumhouse film in my worst of the year list, because lately Blumhouse has either been really bad or surprisingly good, but there hasn't been a great Blumhouse horror film in a long time, and this one lands in that really bad category yet again. It's a movie that actually promotes suicide, which is kind of crazy to me. It's a movie about a family, specifically a mom and 2 kids that are living in a house in the country. The mom of this family is all banged up from a previous car accident that she was just in a couple weeks previous, where it actually claimed the life of the husband of this family. So now they have no dad or husband in the home. They're all really depressed and sad. And then one day, the woman in the yard shows up to make everybody's lives lives that much worse. Now, this is billed as a horror film. If you watch the trailers, you think, oh, this is going to be scary. And unfortunately, it's just not scary. Sure, there's a couple of jump scares, one in particular that worked for me in a shed, but one jump scare out of a whole runtime of a film, that's not going to do it for me. The woman in the yard has these weird shadow powers that work when it's convenient. Like when she wants, she can extend her hands as shadows and they'll go in the house and mess things up, almost create an earthquake like situation. And so the people have to run to a place where there are no shadows, like a dark room. But then when that happens, the woman in the yard just comes in the house. Like it makes no sense how her powers work. And then when you get to the heart of this film, what it's really all about, it just left me feeling disgusted. Because again, at the heart of this film, it's a pro-suicide message, and that's not something I can get behind. So that's why The Woman in the Yard is number 4. At number 3, we have Love Hurts, and I will also add that this movie hurt my brain. It's supposed to be an action comedy set around Valentine's Day, trying to get couples to go to the theater during the cold months of February to go watch this action comedy, and this movie just completely falls flat on its face. For the action side of it, it's horribly choreographed scenes where you can see the stunt doubles instead of the main characters, and the comedy in this movie completely falls flat. I didn't laugh a single time. In fact, this movie just seems to get dumber and dumber as it goes along. Like I said, the movie is set around Valentine's Day, so every character has to have some sort of love story. Even the assassins who are after your main character are supposed to have this love story where you're supposed to care about it, but they're the assassins going after your main character, and I didn't care. Speaking of the main character, this movie starred Ki-Hugh Kwan as this realtor, and I was really excited to see what he was going to do next after his performance and his Oscar win in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I think the guy might need a new agent because this was a terrible movie for him. Overall, I had absolutely no fun with Love Hurts. It's a movie that I hope to not have to talk about until the end of the year when it's on my top 10 worst of 2025 list, inevitably. Now, the last two movies on my worst of the year list are both straight to streaming films, proving once again that straight to streaming films are either going to be extremely forgettable or absolutely terrible. There's not much in between, and there's not much better than that. But at number 2, we have the film You're Cordially Invited. You're Cordially Invited stars both Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon. Will Ferrell is one of the funniest guys on the planet, at least around 2008, but so much of that has fallen off. I don't know if he has fallen off or comedy in general has fallen off. I feel like comedy very much so holds its punches these days. It doesn't want to go too far or offend too many people. I was hoping we'd get a bit of a raunchy wedding comedy out of this film, and you don't. You get another movie that tries to play it safe while also trying to call itself a comedy. In this film, you have two different families, one led by Reese Witherspoon, one led by Will Ferrell, who are trying to give their daughters the absolute best experience of a wedding, but they both book weddings on the same day, and so both wedding parties get to this island that can only host one wedding, and so that forces a lot of shenanigans from there. Now, at that point, I thought this movie's actually going to be really funny. These two are going to go toe-to-toe the whole time. They're going to mess with each other, and they do, but again, in the softest ways possible. There's even a whole gag that goes on way too long with an alligator in this film and Will Ferrell, and by the end of that joke, I just wanted not only the joke to be over, but the movie to be over. The movie also takes several moments throughout the film to have Will Ferrell's daughter, who he's throwing a wedding for, spending a ton of money on, but she and her friends tell him several times throughout this film how bad he is as a person because of the patriarchy and just men in general. A message that definitely didn't resonate with me as a man. And the final nail in the coffin for me during this movie was how many times it breaks out into song and dance. I thought really cheesy, bad comedies where they break out into song and dance were a thing of the past. I thought we had learned from our mistakes and moved forward, but here we were several times because it was a wedding where they would have dance-offs that were just cringy and not funny, and that's kind of how I would categorize this entire movie, is just extreme cringe, not funny at all, not a movie I'd recommend, and my number 2 film on this list. And that leads to the final movie on my worst of the year list, the worst movie that I've seen so far in 2025. At number 1 on this this list is Another Simple Favor. This film stars both Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick, and I actually enjoyed the first Simple Favor film. It was a nice little whodunit mystery where you had Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively playing off of each other. I thought it was done really well. So when I heard there was a sequel coming out directly to streaming, directly to Amazon Prime, I thought, all right, I'm going to enjoy another one of these sort of murder mystery movies. But the movie does way too much, and it expects you to believe way too much and just sort of suspend all belief in things that would normally happen in the real world. For instance, in this film, it's kicked off with Anna Kendrick at a book signing where she's signing books about her life and about her time with the Blake Lively's character, how she was able to put her in jail. And during this book signing, Blake Lively's character shows up and not only threatens her, but blackmails her in front of an entire crowd with video cameras, and it just works. Her blackmail is, hey, you've got to come to this wedding celebration with me and be my maid of honor for my wedding. How did I get out of jail? Don't worry how I got out of jail. I just did. And that's what the movie expects you to do the entire time, is just go along with these ridiculous tropes and these ridiculous things all the way to the end of the film. Like, it never once stops to have a moment in reality. It's just completely baseless. But fine, they get on a plane, they go to this other country to have this beautiful wedding, and when they get there, well, that is when Another Simple Favor is going to be asked, which leads you to a road of twins and people that you don't care about that get killed. And by the end of this movie, I wasn't asking who did it, I was asking who made this film. Why was this thing created? Was it just created because Amazon has a ridiculous amount of money that they can just throw at a film, and if it doesn't do well because it goes to streaming anyway, who cares, because it's just another piece of content to get people to buy stuff on Amazon Prime? Like, was that the whole point of this movie? And I think that was the point of this movie. The final negative thing that I'll say about this movie is that it felt like an adult fiction novel written for women who have nothing going on in their lives. And I'm not trying to be mean to women here, I'm trying to be mean to the movie. This is the worst thing that I've seen in 2025 so far. Even as much as I didn't like You're Cordially Invited, I would rewatch that before ever turning on Another Simple Favor again. And guys, those are the worst films that I've seen in 2025 so far. Now we're going to get to the happier side of the video, where I talk about the top 5 best movies of 2025 so far. Jumping into my top 5 best of the year so far, at number 5 we have the film Sinners. Now, Sinners is a fantastic film. A lot of you probably have this as your number 1 or 2 of the year so far, and I completely understand and respect that because it is a great film. The only thing that really holds it back for me is that the story itself isn't necessarily as original as everyone is claiming. I mean, it's basically From Dusk Till Dawn done a little bit differently. That's not to say it's a bad movie at all. I really loved the performances in this film. That's why it's in my top 5. Michael B. Jordan playing twins, playing 2 different versions of himself, and doing such a great job making those 2 very distinct and very different from each other. Ryan Coogler did a fantastic job directing this film. The camera work in this movie is incredible. There's a one-shot scene during a musical number that is absolutely fantastic.
Say that again?
I loved so much about this movie, including the vampires. The look of the vampires were terrifying. I loved their sharp fangs. Let's get to the end of this film when the sun starts to come out. You have Michael B. Jordan's character versus this final vampire, and the look of this thing is just terrifying. Again, overall, a great film, a movie I saw in theaters twice. That's how much I enjoyed it, and it's a movie I would highly recommend to everybody. And as of the making of this video, it's currently streaming on HBO Max, and you can check it out there. Coming in at number 4, we have the film Presence. And Presence is a film that is a beautiful, emotional story about a family that moves into a house not knowing that there's an entity watching them in the house. Now, you, the viewer, know that there's an entity because the whole movie is shot from the perspective of this ghost or entity in the house. And so the movie opens with this thing sort of looking out the window, watching the house get sold. You don't know what this thing is, what era this thing is from, until the very end of this movie, and the reveal for this thing just absolutely broke my heart. It is a beautiful movie. It is an emotional movie, and the camera work in this film, as much as I love the camera work of Sinners, the camera work in this film is perfection. I loved watching this ghost move around the house slowly. When it went up the stairs, it would sort of glide up the stairs and you would glide with it. Again, the camera work was great. I loved the emotion this movie brought out of me. I thought the acting from the entire family was done so well. It's a movie I've gone back to a few times this year and just feel emotional every time I watch it. I highly recommend you check out Presence. At number 3 is the latest movie I've seen on this list, and it is F1, the Formula One racing film directed by Joseph Kosinski, the same guy who directed Top Gun Maverick, and starring Brad Pitt. And if you liked the airplane scenes of Top Gun Maverick, where Maverick was flying around and you saw everything from the cockpit, just the camera work was so well done, well, then you're going to get all of that, but in Formula One race cars with Brad Pitt this time around. And it's a movie that was very edge of your seat and maybe even the movie of the summer. It was that much fun. While I did absolutely love watching the races in this film, I also had a great time hanging out with Sonny Hastings throughout this film, watching him and his relationship with the owner of the race team, Javier Bardem's character. I thought that was a great relationship. Him and his love relationship that he strikes up with a girl named Kate in this film. And I loved his relationship with his team member JP, who is his co-team member on the track. In a Formula One race, you have two cars on the track, and so these two have to try and work together, although JP is this young up-and-coming guy that wants to prove that he's better than Sonny, and Sonny is legitimately one of the best racers in the entire world and wants to show this young rookie that he's better than him. And so they have a lot of struggle throughout this film, but by the end, there's a brotherly bond that you just really buy into. So I thought the characters were written really well. I thought the story was a lot of fun, and I absolutely loved watching Brad Pitt go fast. That'll lead me to my number 2 pick for the year. And guys, I will say this about all the movies in my top 5. All of these films could probably swap around, especially my number 1 and 2. So by the end of the year, this list could look very different, especially if I have the chance to rewatch several of these movies before the end of the year. Some of these may not make it to the top 10 best of the year list, and some of them may be at the top of the list and they were only at 3 or 4 or even 5. But at number 2, we have The Accountant 2. This movie took everything that I loved about that first accountant film and made it that much better. Yes, there was still a thriller mystery in here if you were there for the thriller mystery in the first film, but they changed it up because now, of course, we know that both John Bernthal's character and Ben Affleck's character are brothers. And so in this film, you get that relationship brought to the next level as well, where these two are now kind of going around in a buddy cop sort of way where they're working together to solve a mystery, but they're also shooting and killing and fighting their way through this whole movie. And I love how their brotherly relationship sort of antagonized each other like brothers would do. Yeah, Ben Affleck has this condition, and John Bernthal, he'll absolutely mess anybody up that messes with his brother, but he wants to be the first in line to mess with his brother like a brother would do. And I really bought into their relationship throughout this film. But yeah, you get into the action. There was a lot of really fun action in the third act of the first accountant film, but this movie again brings that to the next level, and there is some great moments of action, whether it's from Ben Affleck's character, John Bernthal's character, all the way to the end of this film, where the whole thing comes together, where they're trying to save these kids from a bus that's about to get buried in the desert, and so they have to go out there and shoot their way through the bad guys, and I absolutely loved that scene. Once again, this movie took everything I loved about The Accountant 1 and it made it that much better. That's why The Accountant 2 is my number 2 film for 2025. That'll lead me to my final movie on this list, the best of the year so far, or at least at the halfway point of 2025, and it is from the world of John Wick, Ballerina. I absolutely adored everything about this film. I think Ana de Armas was fantastic as the title character of the ballerina. I thought that her assassin fit perfectly into this world of John Wick and super assassins. And I think one of the reasons she fit in so well into this world and she was so believable in this world was that the movie took time at the very beginning of the film while she's going through her training montage to explain to her and you, the viewer, that because she is a woman in this world of assassins, she's going to have to work a little bit harder. She won't always be able to overpower guys that are 2-3 times her size, but she can use the training that she gets at the beginning of this film to take on those people and beat them in battles that she shouldn't be able to win. And that makes her character very believable, but it also makes her character not indestructible or someone who can't be beaten up, because she takes a lot of damage in this film. But again, because of the way they set this film up, it's very believable that she's able to come out on top. Well, she's able to come out on top for the most most part until she runs into John Wick himself, the Baba Yaga, and she's able to meet up with John Wick in this film because the film is set between part 3 and 4, and that was such a smart idea on the part of the filmmakers because that gave us, the John Wick fans, the reason that we're there in the first place was because of John Wick. It gave us another reason to get excited about this film because John Wick was going to show up. And so when John Wick and the ballerina go toe-to-toe in this film, it's a fun fight, but John Wick absolutely gets the upper hand because we're living in John Wick's world. I mean, look at the title of this film, From the World of John Wick, Ballerina. It didn't say From the World of the Ballerinas, a movie that also has John Wick. No, this movie takes it very serious and doesn't kill any of the John Wick lore along the way. It doesn't sacrifice the 4 movies that have set John Wick up as this absolute badass. It doesn't sacrifice any of that. It gives him his time to shine, but also doesn't outshine the ballerina. Again, this was handled extremely well. I thought that they gave her character enough time to really show that she deserves a 3-4 movie franchise, but it also gave the fans a little bit of that John Wick flavor that we've come to love over the years. I guess the only negative that I have for this movie is that the story is kind of weak. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a revenge tale, but I think they put enough spin on it with her family and some of the things that are going on with this cult that she's tracking down throughout the film to still make it feel fresh. So yes, I understand it's a revenge action flick, something we've gotten so many times over the years, but they were able to frame it in a way that still felt fresh to me, and that's why Ballerina, or From the World of John Wick, Ballerina, is my #1 movie for 2025 so far. And guys, those are the top 5 best and top 5 worst of 2025 so far. It's going to be really interesting to see where these movies shake out at the end of the year. It's really just going to depend on how good or bad the last 6 months of the year are. I know as of making this video, I've already seen Jurassic World. I thought, ooh, this could potentially land on my top 10 list, and I've got it somewhere around 15 or 16 right now. Not a bad movie, but not a very good movie. So I don't know how much these lists will actually get shaken up. We'll see. But like I said at the beginning of this video, I'm very interested to know what you guys think is the best and worst of the year so far. So throw your best and your worst in that comment section down below. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, guys, we got to the end of my best and worst movies of 2025 so far. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a blast watching so many movies in the first half of 2025, putting them all in ranked list order, and I'm looking forward to the last 6 months where I will watch so many more movies, put out so many more reviews. But until that time, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my best and worst of 2025 right there, and I've got all of my 2025 movie reviews right there.